the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at the Sunday slate, looking at the Big 15 gamer here, and some decent options up top as far as pitching goes. And overall, I think this is one of the better slates we've had in a while.
Yeah, in terms of pitching, it's strong, or at least it's perceived to be strong. Why do we need to pay it for pitching when we can just get Matt Schumacher to throw a one hitter against? Anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, this strong, a lot of aces on the hill. And I think I'm leaning towards paying up for at least one of them in pretty much all my lineups.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And looking at pitching, your most expensive is Noah Syndergaard at 13, 3 there. And I think with 400 being 400 above Scherzer, I'm leaning towards Syndergaard a little bit here. I know Scherzer's obviously, looked like his old self again. I really don't mind either. But I just think really Syndergaard's in the better matchup with Milwaukee.
Yeah, no, that's the guy I'm going with here. Obviously he needs above 30 to really pay off that price tag, but I think he's worth it. And I like Scherzer a lot too, so I think both of those are great options. I'm probably going to make one tournament lineup with both of them and just awful hitting. It's probably not going to work out, but I think that's sort of the things you're looking at here. They're kind of the clear tier one for me.
Yeah, and I think Kenta Maeda at 10,600 is not bad either. I think if you do want to spin down and, maybe get an extra bat or two, Maeda, going up against the Padres, ranked last in the WOBA. The strikeout rate's high against righties. Obviously, Maeda's come off a couple tough starts, but I think tough opponents kind of, draw a little bit more name here. So I think he should bounce back.
Right. Stroman, I think Marcus Stroman against the Twins is pretty intriguing. I feel like you've been more on him than I have, but he had that one bad start, but other than that, he's been pretty rock solid. So for only 8,700, I think that's what we're looking at against a weak Twins lineup.
Yeah, heavily right-handed, so I do like that price tag for him. I think it's relatively cheap. And I think he's going to be the guy that I kind of lean on the SP2 spot with in comparisons to a Scherzer or Syndergaard. And I don't even mind a Maeda Stroman kind of lineup to drop salary down a bit.
Right. Who are you? Are you looking at any punts here at pitching, or are you pretty much, is that the lowest you're going?
I can't see myself. You like the matchup for Eichhoff. I'm a little bit concerned, though. He could put in a decent start, but he struggles with lefties, and there are a lot of lefties in that Atlanta lineup. I think it's a bit worrisome.
Yeah, I think you look at the matchup initially, and you go, "Ooh, okay, cheap," and then you go, "Ooh, no, I can't do this." And then you probably throw him in a tournament, and then he probably gets 3 points. But I think there's some decent upside there at his price, and I think my guy for the lower range, sort of a contrarian guy, is Adam Conley for me. I think that's an intriguing matchup against the Nationals. They don't scare me too much at this point. Obviously Murphy and Harper are a worry, but I think if Conley can get through that, smooth sailing. So, he's shown that 20 to 25 point upside, and he's only 7,100. So I think that's an interesting contrarian play off of even a Scherzer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Conley's kind of a guy who he's always been priced relatively in that tier, and he has that big time upside. Yeah, this Nationals offense is. Yeah, there's some right-handers and there's some guys who previously hit lefties in their career, but they're not doing too much this year. And Conley in that strikeout rate, I think you feel pretty good in GPPs. So is that about it there? Down low?
Yeah, I can't see myself going much lower. My boy Chase, if he throws out another nice start, maybe next time. But I think I'm out on him for now.
Yeah. Looking at catcher here and up top, I'm not really planning on paying up behind the plate there, just because of one, you're going to have two top tier kind of pitchers probably locked into your lineup, and one guy who I like down low, who I was talking about with Eichhoff, is AJ Przinsky, 3,100. If he's hitting in the middle of that lineup, I really don't mind him, just because Eichhoff has struggled with lefties in his career.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. I think if whenever you really pay it for pitching, you kind of slant over to that catcher position and are like, all right, where can I get a super cheap value, even if it's not a good play? We saw that pay off with Tommy Joseph the other day. But yeah, I think that's a good call. Cervelli, 2,900. Lower than that, I think as the lineups pop out here, you're gonna see some really cheap punt plays that you kind of, if you're really looking for salary relief, we saw Holiday last night kind of just pay off for the min. I mean, there are going to be those guys, so you can always get those. But in terms of actual like value standalone guys, Cervelli is kind of the lowest I'm going in terms of that.
Yeah, I agree. And Salvador Perez, 2,800 is another guy, just because he's been hitting fifth. I don't mind him in an RBI spot like that, especially in that ballpark. But yeah, I agree. I think you're going to look and see. I mean, it's Sunday. Half the catchers that usually play don't play, just because it's an off day for them. So you're going to see some openings up. And I think, one, you're just going to kind of go down there and punt today, because those top options, guys like Posey and McCann, I mean, decent spots, but I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be paying up.
Right.
So, first base here, and one guy for me who really stands out is Edwin Encarnacion against Phil Hughes. And I'm looking at a lot of Toronto bats, just because of how bad Phil Hughes has been against right-handed pitching. 3.38 WOBA since 2014 allowed, 1.35 runs per nine. It's been worse this year. I mean, he's been horrible. So expensive, but I think Encarnacion is definitely worth it.
I did the stacking article today, and I looked for, honestly, 10 to 15 minutes for a different one other than Toronto. And I just, after 5 minutes, I just said, all right, you got me again. You're just a clear best matchup. I mean, I don't see how anyone could even try to argue that. I tried to build a narrative against them, but there's just nothing there. It's just a great matchup. Even at their prices, I think, especially in tournaments, you have to kind of make at least one Toronto stack.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, they're expensive, but I mean, as we've seen, they can pay off those price tags and really one swing of the bat. So I think it's in play for sure. It's kind of going to be a contrarian move, just because of the pitchers on the slate. So I think that's another thing.
That's a good call too. Yeah, I mean, unless you're really paying down at that SP2, you're not in those range for stacks anyway.
Yeah. Looking a little bit lower, I mean, Adam Lind, I think Seattle is one of the more favorable offenses on today's slate. And you're just looking at Alfredo Simon. I mean, against lefties, he really struggles. 355 WOBA to lefties since 2014, 1.38 home runs per nine. I love this Mariners offense in general today. And I think you're on him as far as the full stack goes, but I think Lind's a decent piece here at 4K.
Yeah, and relatively cheap. I think that's a good matchup, and not a necessarily dominant pitcher or anything, which there are quite a few that you got to avoid today. So I think that's a good call. I don't know, like it's tough. Like, you're trying to look lower here. I guess John Jaso at 3,300. But
yeah, that's probably my guy down low.
I think Detroit's an interesting sort of contrarian move here, with Victor Martinez, 3,200. But beyond that, I think I kind of want to stick to that 4K range.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jason's about as low as you can go anyway, and feel comfortable about it. Yeah, I mean, I like him. I just see myself really paying up for Encarnacion if I can, or kind of stay in that mid-range with Lind. So, I mean, I think there's three different tier guys that kind of I feel comfortable using them really in any spot.
Right.
So, Freddie Freeman, though, 4,500 if you want to be different, has shown a little bit more pop here this season, 8 homers already. He's the only one hitting homers. So
team still pitched to him for some strange reason. Yeah, he got one the other day. It's like, why don't you just Do what they do to Bryce Harper. Who cares? Because no one else is going to beat you, other than Nick Markakis, of course.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. When he decides to showcase his power, yeah, I think he would be kind of a GPP play for me because I think Eichhoff is probably going to maybe a cheaper pitcher that people really target. But I'm kind of looking to target against him with some of those lefties because he hasn't been good.
Now, David Ortiz is there. What do we think about Salazar versus the Red Sox?
As far as attacking against them,
As far as I don't necessarily like that matchup for the Red Sox.
yeah, I think it's just one of those stay away situations on both sides.
Yeah, because he's been pretty good this year.
Yeah, he has. He's been electric, but you also look. I mean, you look at this Red Sox team. I mean, it's kind of like, okay,
I know.
Is he going to have that upside against him? Probably not. But it's also like, do you plan on Boston doing a lot of damage off him? Probably not. So it's just one of those ones where it's like, I'll pass. I'll move along.
No, I know. And when you go through box scores and stuff, you just see everyone has that one down game, and it seems to most of the time be against the Red Sox. So yeah. I think that's likely today. But yeah, he does. He is a solid pitcher, so you're not really targeting Red Sox today.
No, definitely not. Second base here, and I think if I'm paying up, it's going to be definitely for Robbie Cano.
Yeah.
We talked about the struggles with Simon to lefties. That Great American Ballpark, very favorable for all these Mariners bats. And with Hamels facing Altuve, 5,400, Kinsler facing Archer, if you're paying up, it's Cano. It's a pretty simple.
Pretty straightforward here. I think Seattle's a pretty process-wise the stack you really want to look at tonight, especially in terms of some of the values. But I mean, obviously you're paying up here, but I think it's totally worth it. And this is a great matchup. So hopefully it pays off, but because I'm definitely hitting that up.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, there are some cheaper options I think that are pretty much in play. Joe Panic, 3,600. I don't mind the matchup with Hendricks there if you want a cheap guy. Brandon Phillips, I think 3,300 against Wade Miley is going to be something I look at a lot. And, Miley's obviously coming off a very solid start against Baltimore. That was in Baltimore, but I'm looking at a couple cheap Reds bats.
Daniel Murphy keeps slinking down and down and down, even though it's lefty on lefty. I'm probably not going to do it, but it's 3,600 for Daniel Murphy. For a guy betting 390. Like, it's unbelievable. So, I mean, that's that situation. It's not a good matchup, but again, it's Daniel Murphy. Neil Walker, I think in play. I'm kind of looking at that Mets as a nice little contrarian stack today. And I mean, Odor against Keuchel, not Kuchel. I think that's important. Anyway. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the range I'm looking in, mid 3K.
What about your boy Gordon Beckham as a punt, 2,600?
I think he's in play.
He's in play. I'm telling you, these Atlanta bats are in play today.
I think a lot of the things about today are going to be maybe taking some decent hitters in bad spots. You look at like a Dietrich, 2,700. I think there's a lot of guys like that today where the matchup's awful, but if you're really looking to pay up, I think you're going to have to sacrifice some matchup based picks here.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just using Dietrich as an example, not saying you play Dietrich, really. But I'm saying his price is reduced 600 less than sort of yesterday and what his normal price is just because of the matchup. So I think you can get some good hitters in bad matchups today for a reduced price.
Yeah, you can. Anyone else here looking at second base?
Not really. I mean, you mentioned Gordon Beckham against. I think Atlanta could score some runs tonight. Hot take.
Yeah, which would be, it's a rare sighting, but when it happens, it happens.
Yeah, I do think so. So,
looking at third base here, and you're looking at some of these top options. It's kind of a crowded group again because I do like a lot of the top options there. Seager, Donaldson. Machado, Seager's probably my favorite just because of the park factors there in Cincy. And he's also been pretty hot as well. So I think once again, if I'm paying up, it's going to be for a Mariners bat.
Yeah, Mariners, Blue Jays or Braves, I think is how things normally go, right?
Yeah, that's how it usually goes.
Oh, we see Chase Denardo'd up there at 4,400. I don't know about that price. But Donaldson and Seager, I think, are the clear top two options. I actually kind of like that because it's going to split up ownership percentage at least a little bit. And then obviously Machado there, he's going to be his 10 to 15% at guaranteed, regardless of format. So I think I actually like Donaldson here, but it's pretty close. They're 1A, 1B.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, if you look lower, I mean, you still got guys like Danny Valencia, 3,700. Pineda's been very up and down this season, mostly down. He can be home run prone at times. 1.36 home runs per nine to right-handers since 2014. So Valencia, I mean, not only mashing lefties but hitting righties pretty hard too this season. So I definitely like him at that price tag.
Yeah, David Wright, 3,700 as well. I like that price. What do we think about Garcia now? Are the Diamondbacks in play? Jake Lamb, 3,300? Question mark.
I don't think so. On a full
Yeah.
slate here, yeah, I'm staying away.
Okay. Uh,
Justin Turner, if he's in the lineup, 3,200. I keep getting enticed in just because of one, you're going to be paying up for pitching. These Dodger bats are still cheap. I mean, he's a guy hitting third. It's equivalent to a punt play,
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He was in my lineups for that big 2 points he got last night. So I don't know. He's a solid play. He's always a solid play, but a down stretch for him, I guess, is how we would describe this beginning of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you can go look at Valencia in that right range too as well. I just think that's where we kind of sit for third base. I definitely even don't mind Beltre. I think it's kind of a contrarian play just because Keuchel still carries that name factor, but also hasn't been that good this season. So for 4K, I mean, Beltre is kind of a nice pivot down who does have some upside as far as those top guys are concerned in comparison.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely like that call. I liked him yesterday, and I think it's pretty much the same situation today.
Yeah. Shortstop here, and I think one just because Machado's right there is obviously the top option. Because I can't really see myself paying up for Seager. I can't really see myself paying up for Correa. But, I mean, you do have that tier of Tulo, Lindor, and Cozart who I think just make it kind of easy to sit in that range too.
Yeah, I think Trevor Story's in play, but he's clearly a tier down from what you're looking at with Machado here. Orioles stack in play again against the struggling Jared Weaver, so I definitely think that's the top option.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, if you're looking lower, it's hard to get behind a lot of these guys. But if Asdrubal Cabrera is in the lineup, I might take a look at him there, just depending on what that Mets lineup comes out, because that would be a cheap way to get some exposure to it.
Yeah, I think Aledmus Diaz, I think he's interesting at 3,300. I actually think the Cardinals are a weird contrarian stack on a full slate to roll with here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Greinke. I mean, it's in St. Louis, so obviously Greinke's pitched a little bit better on the road, but I mean, he still hasn't been his usual dominant self there. So, and I think that's kind of one of those teams where you maybe look and get some cheaper matchup type play. I mean, Matt Carpenter's still a little expensive, but you look at this outfield bats and it's like, okay, they're pretty cheap. I might be able to look at them to be a little bit different, especially at a value spot.
Definitely.
So, yeah, overall, I think shortstop's a pretty weak spot. And I think this might be another one in comparison to catcher where I look and see what's out there once lineups come and try and kind of get that value.
Yeah, I mean, there are some guys in that. There are going to be some major punt plays at shortstop today, but they're not good punt plays. They're just kind of like You guys can go and investigate down in the 2,000 to 2,300 because I'm not going to suggest any of them, but there are players down there, and they're ugly, but you might want to throw them in if you need to.
Yeah, it depends what route you're going up as far as pitching goes.
Right.
Outfield here, and once again, I think I'm going to be, because I like higher options at third base, at shortstop, first base. I can kind of probably sit in the mid tier here. And Lorenzo Cain's the guy I'm really looking at as far as GPPs go. He's starting to really come around of late. 4 homers in the last 10. Gets a lefty, which he mashed left-handers last season. And you look at Rodon, hasn't been that solid this year. I think he's one of my favorite outfielders on the slate.
Interesting. Okay, I like that call. A guy to avoid, Giancarlo Stanton. It's only 3,900. But unlike Daniel Murphy, he just strikes out now. He doesn't hit the ball. So we're avoiding him. I think Piscotty's a good play. Yasiel Puig, I think the Dodgers are interesting. So top options, though, real quick. Nelson Cruz, is he a standalone guy or is he just a Mariners stack guy?
I think he's a Mariners stack guy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm going with anything up there, it's going to be because of the stack. I can't see a lot of these guys being one-offs just because of the price tag.
Right.
I do think Bautista, Cruz, Polanco, obviously, are all worthy of a play. But, I mean, Marte, 4,400, Kane, 4,400. I just like spinning down to that tier there.
Yeah, and odds are you're not going to have the cap to pay up for those guys anyway. In the same range as Kane, I do like Trumbo. I think he's pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, Kutch, 4,200 there. I mean, obviously McCutcheon's hasn't been exactly his usual self, but still, I mean, that's a notable name. That's pretty cheap. And Bettis isn't, a top quality right-hander that's really shaking you away from this Pirates team,
Definitely.
So I think you can sit in that lane right there. Michael Saunders continues to hit the ball well, so I do like him. So I think that tier is kind of where I'm going to round out my outfield.
Yeah, Rajai Davis, 3,400. I'm not afraid of Porcello at this point. Matt Holliday, 3,400. I think those two guys are sort of another tier that I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you, and I think he can really stick down there as far as value. Trace Thompson's been hitting the ball well. I think he's one of the Dodger bets that I actually like more so, just because the price is cheaper at 3,300. So I definitely don't mind him.
Yeah. Melky's always kind of chilling in the 5th or 6th spot of that White Sox lineup. He hasn't been doing much this year, but at 3,100, always kind of intriguing to throw in there. I'm not against that for sure, and I probably will do that myself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That's a great price tag for that ballpark. I mean, the matchup's not bad, so I definitely like him a lot. So if you're looking, I mean, another Braves guy that you could look at, I mean, Kelly Johnson, 3K. I mean, it just depends on what that lineup is when it comes out. They're going to have some punk guys, and Eichhoff's not a guy who really strikes me as going to go out there and dominate this team.
Definitely.
So, Joey Ricard, I mean, 3K, is he working in for value?
He did last night. It didn't pay off, but I like his price again. I like the Orioles stack again. So I definitely think he's a good value. Even, I mean, that leadoff spot, it's just good opportunity for him. So at that price, I'm kind of in on him regardless of whether I'm stacking Orioles or not.
Yeah, I mean, especially against Weaver. I mean, one, he throws about a slow pitch fastball these days, and overall, I mean, you look at the park factors, it's a nice day game, so you're going to get a little bit of a bump, and I think Ricard's in a solid spot to easily kind of surpass value at that price.
Definitely.
So that's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.